Good evening, boys and girls. My name's DeWalk, a childhood pal of Deathstalker V. I come all the way from the Bog of Eternal Terrors to tell you a Halloween tale sure to chill you down to the very bone marrow. Yes, a tale that also involves our good pal, Deathstalker V. Where do I begin? Let's start where it all started, in a small cemetery that was built upon an ancient battlefield. Now there was a small town across the way from this cemetery. The people in the town had no idea about the ancient battlefield, and they didn't know who was in this little cemetery. But this town was a strange town because it refused to celebrate Halloween. Ah, yes.
And it was on a Halloween night that a strange storm came upon the land. Lightning flashed through the sky, bats flew from the clouds, and an eerie fog permeated the land. And some folks in the town say that the storm was of supernatural origins, and those people would be correct, for the storm itself was the spirit of Halloween. Now, during this storm, a lightning bolt flashed from the sky, striking the gravestone of Deathstalker V, shattering it into a pile of smoking rubble. The ground on Deathstalker V's grave began to shake and tremble, and it sprung forth a green vine that grew tall, and all of a sudden, 3 snarling, laughing, and shrieking jack-o'-lanterns fruited forth and glowed into the dark, shrieking their madness toward the town that would not celebrate Halloween. But the ground itself was not tired of giving birth to gruesome things, for out of it sprang a hand, and up from the ground clawed the corpse of Deathstalker V, looking super gross and all corpseified and things. And Deathstalker V raised out of his grave, stood up with his sword of power glowing green with the spirit of Halloween, toward the night sky as the clouds began to vortex and spiral. And the spirit of Halloween descended down from the clouds in a green column of eerie power, so powerful that it rendered off the corpse flesh of Deathstalker V, leaving him nothing but a skeleton. A skeleton wearing a Motorhead shirt, that is. In a bright flash, the column of light disappeared, and Deathstalker V stood with new living flesh restored to his body, and he became both live and undead. Now Deathstalker V, looking at the town that refused to celebrate Halloween, this troubled his heart greatly, and he was filled with unquenchable anger. So he turned around to the graves of his fallen comrades of the past, raised up his sword of power glowing green with the spirit of Halloween, and they burst forth from their graves. And he said, "Let's go forth, my random encounter army, and teach these people how to have a good time." So the random encounter army and Deathstalker V went forth, and oh, what a good time they had, showing these people the true spirit of Halloween. And this scene served as the inspiration of the art of many a Slayer album afterward.
Ah! Welcome to our 2025 Halloween special. I'm Deathstalker V. Yeah, and we're in my favorite time of year, the fall. A time of year where the heat of the summer, the Gulf Coast 120 degrees humidity heat of the summer has finally seemingly blown away on the cool breezes of fall. Yeah, we can go back outside again. It's going to be paradise for a while. Yeah, but more importantly than the weather, it's getting close to Halloween. And this is, I don't know, in contention with Christmas as my favorite holiday out of the entire year. It's a time where I sit back, reflect, think on things, wax nostalgic, and just relive lots and lots and lots of great memories and be so proud I was there at the time, in the time that I was at it. Yeah? Because I tell you, we talked about it last year, Halloween has just become an empty husk, a shell of what it used to be. Overly commercialized, and the charm of it all and the fun of it all has disappeared. Yeah, I go to department stores like Walmart and I see aisle after aisle of Halloween decor, stupid inflatables for the yard. I see aisle after aisle of pre-made Halloween costumes. And while on one hand, all that stuff's nice and neat, on the other hand, that's the fun of it gone. Yeah? That's the fun of Halloween gone. Because it wasn't so when I was a kid. Yeah, Halloween was more of a homemade holiday. As in, you didn't go to stores and see just tons and tons and tons of Halloween decor. There were small things and stuff. But more importantly, you didn't go to the store and you saw pre-made costumes. It didn't work that way. No. I can remember decor-wise, people would take things, bales of hay, straw, bags, garbage, black garbage bags, the big black garbage bags, cotton, etc. And they would do amazing Halloween setups at their homes from homemade components, I think one of the coolest I remember as a kid was one of the houses we trick-or-treated. There was a giant black spider. I mean, it was giant. It was big as the house, basically. And it had its front legs going up the front of the house and its body and back legs and stuff on the ground. So it looked like it was about to start climbing up the house from the ground. And they had taken, I guess, cotton. I don't know. And they had twisted it into strands. And they made the house covered in like cobwebs and spider webs. And it looked like an egg or a nest or something that this giant spider was going up. And you had to walk under the spider up to the porch to trick-or-treat the house. But that kind of stuff was everywhere. People went all out for Halloween. And it was just an amazing time. And most of the fun was in the planning and building of your Halloween decor. Yeah, it's just a different time now. Now you go there and it's pre-made costumes. It's Pokemon. It's, I don't know, cartoon characters. It's superhero stuff. I don't even know what the hell it is anymore. I'm too old, yeah? It's cutesy. Yeah, that would have not cut it. You would have came out with us. We're talking 80s, 90s. You would have came out of the house on Halloween in something like that. You would have never came out the house again. I promise you. I promise you. Let us catch you. A group of ghouls coming down the street. Let us catch you walking around the street. Dressed up as, I don't know, some kind of pink Pokemon creature or something. You're going into the bushes or maybe a trash can. Yeah? I mean, it just is what it is. They don't even trick or treat anymore. These people around here throwing trunk or treats. What were you... Where you go to a place and you go around and they open the trunks of their car and they give you some candy or whatever. And it's like, oh my goodness, this hurts my heart. It hurts my soul. Yeah, that would have never cut it for us.
Somebody would have said, let's go trunk or treating. We'd have said, what is that? Do we get in like, I don't know, caskets or trunks or something? And you push us through the neighborhood and we jump out and scare people? That might have went, but if they would have said, well, instead of trick or treating, we're just going to go to a parking lot and people's got candy in their trunks and you just walk around there and go home. Oh my goodness, get out of here with that. You would have had a total revolt on your hands. A total revolt on your hands. That wasn't going to cut it, Jack. That wasn't going to cut it, because there was one thing that me and my friends knew, and I think it was a knowledge that was nationwide here in America, that we had one single night out of the whole year where seemingly the rules were thrown out of the window. Yeah? We could be out after dark. There was no curfews. We could do whatever we wanted to do. Yeah? Basically, let loose and terrorize the whole neighborhood all night long. And the surrounding areas. Yeah, because that one single night, like I said, the rules were out the windows. The parents relaxed. The parents were getting up to crazy stuff. Yeah, you just didn't know it as a kid. But it was a time when the rules just went away. Yeah, I think the police department turned off their phones. They're not going to get called, 47 times every 30 minutes about Halloween pranks. It's not going down like that. Yeah? I remember the police would drive very slowly on Halloween around the neighborhoods and stuff. That way you had plenty of time to see them before they got to you, because those guys, they didn't want to be out writing tickets and arresting people over some stupid Halloween stuff. Yeah? They just wanted to make sure nobody's houses got burnt down. Nobody got murdered in an alleyway or anything. Other than that, it was on. It was on. But yeah, all this pre-made stuff, where's it gone? The spirit of Halloween is gone. It's gone. It's sad. It's not sad for me so much. I'm sad for the young people nowadays, the kids nowadays. I'm really sad for them. Yeah? Because they missed this tradition that had went from I don't know when. This holiday that had turned, the world into one no rules scary night. In good fun scary night. That was a thing I need to put out there, that we did pranks and we had fun, but it was all in good fun. We didn't want to hurt nobody. We were not damaging property and that kind of stuff. We weren't that group. We were the group that just wanted to go out and scare people, holler from bushes, I don't know, run from house to house and fill up. Literally, I remember I will get into it. We'll get into it. Yeah, but the candy we would get, oh my goodness. And that's what it was all about. And we would eat that candy. It would last us till Christmas as a kid. Yeah, it would last us to Christmas. Sacks full. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. I know you guys like stories of mine. And I'm a storyteller. I enjoy telling them when I can speak English properly. So hopefully we can make it through this. But just in the spirit of Halloween's past, a subscriber here to our show, he runs his own channel, EDF Central, I think it is. A couple of weeks ago, he asked me if we were doing the Halloween special, and he asked, can you share another Aunt Lisa story? Well, this Halloween special, I wasn't necessarily going to go with Aunt Lisa, but she was the queen of Halloween, so we might as well get her in, yeah? My mother was visiting a couple of weeks ago, and she actually relayed to me a story about Aunt Lisa on Halloween I had never heard. It was before my time. Yeah? But I know that it's true. Yeah, just cause I know my Aunt Lisa. She's passed away, by the way. Her memory's always a blessing and an honor. Cheers to Aunt Lisa. Yeah? But my mother said, when they were just out of high school, my Aunt Lisa was a year older than my mother. But my mother had just graduated high school. Aunt Lisa had been out of high school. And they got together for Halloween, and they planned there was a big Halloween party somewhere. And they planned to do that. But Aunt Lisa and her friend wanted to go to this haunted house off in the woods somewhere. It was actually a haunted chicken house. A chicken house is a very long, narrow building where they commercially raise chickens, poultry. Pro tip from Deathstalker 5. If you enjoy eating chicken, do not ever go inside of a commercial chicken house. Yeah? I worked in one for a little while. It was several years before I wanted to eat a chicken finger again. Yeah, or go to the KFC. Yeah, that's just a pro tip. Don't go in if you like eating chicken. Holy smokes. Anyway, I guess it was an old chicken house that was shut down. They decided to turn it into a haunted house. So for this Halloween party, though, they were all going to wear costumes. My Aunt Lisa and one of her friends, they decided they want to go as pumpkin heads. Yeah, now this came up because I was talking about Pumpkinhead the movie, but this is very early 80s. Yeah, this is very early 80s. It's I don't know what year, I didn't ask her, but long before the Pumpkinhead movie had ever hit the scene. Yeah, what she was describing was they took white sheets and cut a hole in the middle and wore them over their body, and they had taken real pumpkins. They found real big pumpkins, and they had carved the jack-o'-lantern faces into them, and then they had cut a hole in the bottom where they could actually put the pumpkins over their heads. Yeah. Good stuff back then. That's what I'm talking about. There wasn't a whole lot of store-bought stuff. Anyway, so they pile in my Aunt Lisa's car. There's like 4 of them. Her and her friends sat up front, and they decided it would be hilarious if they put on their costumes with the pumpkin heads on as they drove through town so that people would see them. Hindsight's 2020, guys. I guess. I don't know. I would have said this was probably a bad idea then, but anyway, they take off to this haunted chicken house. They drive through the town we're from. They get off in the woods and they get to where the chicken house is, the haunted chicken house. And so Aunt Lisa, with the pumpkin still on her head, she misses the driveway and goes down into a very deep ditch to the point where the car is literally nose down, rear end up to the sky. And the pumpkins had come off their heads and hit the windshield and smashed everywhere, the pumpkins. My mother was in the back seat. She says, what they were turning, and all of a sudden the car, just the world went upside down. And when she opened her eyes, she thought Aunt Lisa and everybody in the front seat was dead. Because she looked and she just thought it was like brains and blood and stuff everywhere. It was the pumpkins. They were just smashed all over the windshield. Yeah? So my Aunt Lisa's a trooper, though. What did they do? They walked to the haunted chicken house, asked them if they had a truck to pull them out of the ditch. They didn't, but they had an old hearse that was running that they used for advertising around the haunted chicken house. You could probably find this on YouTube, because I think they were running it up to the early 2000s, and this thing had been running for like 40 years or whatever. They had a hearse, and it had like their number and their address, and they'd drive it around, starting around late September, advertising the haunted chicken house. I think it was the chicken house from hell or something, yeah. But they went out there and they pulled her car out with this hearse. So they got out and they went in the chicken house, covered in pumpkin guts and everything. That's my Aunt Lisa. She also went to the party. She didn't care. Aunt Lisa was going to have a good time. Nothing deterred her from that. Yeah, she was just that cool of a person. But yeah, so there's your Aunt Lisa story. What I was going to talk about for this special, I had talked to my buddy Steve Priest. He's a member of Rogues Gallery here. He's done some artwork for the show. We reviewed some of his children's books like Reynard the Bard and such. Yeah, just an outstanding friend of mine. Him and I were reminiscing about Halloween and talking about things, and I told him a story that took place with my best friend in elementary school, and he says, I have to tell that story. Yeah, I have to tell it. And I said, yeah, this would be a good year to do it. This would be a good year. And that friend is Jordan. Anybody that's watched the show for a while, you've heard me talk about Jordan. He was an African-American kid in my elementary school, and we were best friends from basically kindergarten to the mid fourth grade when my mom and stepdad got divorced and we moved to another place over the Christmas break. But yeah, he was my best friend. He was my best pal. But him and his family were the super nerds. You know, real nerds. Like, I don't even know how to describe. There is no more real nerds, really. But we're talking, you know, like they would send Jordan to school every day. He would be wearing a pair of khaki slacks, leather shoes. He's basically in business casual. And he would always have on a checkered shirt, button up, a pair of suspenders, big gold rimmed glasses, and oftentimes he actually had a pocket protector. You guys remember those? Yeah. He had twin brothers who were in high school when we were in elementary school. They were older than him. They were super nerds. They looked the same way. His dad was a super nerd. He looked the same way. His mom was a super nerd. She looked the same way. Yeah, Jordan and his, you know, having access to his brothers, he was able to get us into super nerddom. I didn't have the resources for it. Jordan did. You know, he knew about computers. His whole family, everybody in the family had computers. You know, Jordan had a Commodore 128. It was passed down from his brothers. This is what he had in his room. A member of the Commodore 64 family, basically an upgraded Commodore 64 that still plays Commodore 64 games, backwards compatible. He had the Commodore 128 that passed down from his brothers, and he literally had shoe boxes full of floppy disks for this thing. Yeah, we're going to have a whole episode on this. We're going to have a whole episode on it. But he had box games, like actual official games. But he had tons and tons and tons of copied game disc. Yeah, those came from his brothers. Just a little fact, and we'll talk about it more, that his brothers were actual, I don't know what crackers, pirates, hackers, I don't know what you would call them. But back in the day, they had an Amiga 500. You know, when they got their Amiga 500, and I believe they also had a Tandy 1000 in their room. I know the mother also, they had two computers in the room. One was for sure an Amiga 500. The other one was a PC clone of some sort. Or just a PC. I believe it was a Tandy 1000. But anyway, you know, what they did was they would get games, and all games back then had copy protection on them. Well, many of them did, to try to stop people from copying the data over to a new floppy disk and giving it to a friend or selling it or whatever the heck they did. You know, I don't remember those guys ever selling floppy disks, but they would certainly make you copies of any game that you wanted. But yeah, they would go in, they would figure out the copy protection and remove it somehow. Yeah? And then you could play the game. Because back in the day, they would do all kind of sorts of schemes to stop people from copying games and distributing them. Most of the time it was, you know, some certain word or series of numbers or whatever you had to put in at a certain point in the game to make it go forward. Yeah, they removed that stuff. And I remember, and I've been looking. Yeah, back in the day, they called themselves Gemini. I guess because they were twins. And I remember they had online before I'd even seen. I mean, that's where I first seen internet access. This was early 90s. You know, it was an early form of dial-up. I don't even think it was 56K dial-up. The only thing, I can't even remember the company. It was something that came out of Atlanta. We were in Georgia, but we were west of Atlanta up into the Appalachians a little bit. But it was something out of Atlanta. His dad had to have it for his job. And I remember it was still internet where you charge by, like, what was it? It wasn't by the data, but like time connected or something. Yeah, the only thing I remember about it was when you turned it on and it was connecting, it showed you like a little pixelated earth with a logo above it. And a little bar down below that gave you the status of your connection. But yeah, they would distribute copied games and all that, and they all had like part of their allowance or whatever was internet time. Yeah, So Jordan would use a lot of his internet time to grab Commodore 64 games to play. Yeah. So anyway, let me get to this. We had a whole group. Halloween was special for us. There was, I don't know, I need to do an official count. Go back. Maybe I can find one of my old yearbooks and share you guys some pictures. Maybe my mother's got boxes of pictures of stuff that we can show. Yeah? The earliest Halloween picture I can remember was when I was a baby. And, well, not necessarily a baby. I was walking, so I was probably about 3, maybe 2. I don't know. But I think it was my first Halloween going out. What did I want to be? A Smurf. I was a Smurf. That picture somewhere, that I think we found, it was back when you had the mask didn't go all the way around your head. You had that front piece mask, yeah? And it was Papa Smurf, and my grandmother had made up the rest of the costume. I was Papa Smurf. I love the Smurfs. I still love the Smurfs, yeah? Good gracious. We're going back in time, aren't we, guys? But yeah, that's the earliest Halloween picture I know of that's floating around somewhere. But maybe I can find some from this time period for next year. Yeah, I'll make that a mission. I'll write that in my book. Because I don't have a great memory nowadays. But anyway, we had a group. I don't know how. There was 8 to 10 of us, yeah? It was Jordan, 2 Kyles, Michael, Shane, Billy, Jason, Toby. There was a whole bunch of us, yeah? We were a solid group. We played D&D together. We formed a baseball team every year and went to the All-Stars and won it every single year. My stepdad was the coach. We were phenomenal. Yeah, we stayed over at each other's houses all the time. We were lucky that we were such a tight-knit group as kids, and the parents actually got along, and they all became tight-knit friends. Yeah, so we were all the time at each other's houses, spending the night, whatever. Sometimes the whole herd of us would be at one or another's houses. You know how it went. Yeah, but we did everything together, just a solid crew. But anyway, the Halloween was big time for us. And like I was saying, there wasn't the commercialized Halloween then. At best what we would do, because it was so special to us, we would literally start planning our costumes. Probably October 1st is when it hit our mind, and we would start planning our costumes and figuring out what we were going to do for Halloween, for trick-or-treating Halloween night. Big time. Big time. Yeah? And by the time this group was hearing stuff, wasn't nobody going as no Smurf. It'd been game over for you. You wouldn't go out the door on Halloween as a Smurf. I promise you, not unless you were just a little kid. By this time had come around, I had hung out with Aunt Lisa enough, spent the night with her enough over the years that I had seen all of the B-horror movies and mainstream horror movies. I knew what scary was. Yeah, so had the rest of the group, and if they hadn't seen them, I would sit and describe them in vivid detail to them. Yeah. But we knew what scary was, and that was the whole point. You wanted to be the most grotesque, monstrous, terrible thing anybody's ever seen. That was the whole goal of this. Yeah? So, this particular, like I said, we didn't have this place where you could just go buy a costume and put it on and you were ready to go. We had one place in the major town that was near us. This is where our story is going to start taking place anyway. We had one place that it was some kind of costume or party store or something, but you could go in and rent costumes and then bring them back afterwards. Yeah, we never had the luxury of doing anything like that. The only rental stores we ever went to were video rental stores, which were another place to go on Halloween, by the way, if you missed out. Yeah, I know they're not around anymore, but the video rental stores used to show down. Blockbuster, Movie Gallery, all those places. That they would decorate the entire inside of the store. They would feature just horror movies pretty much the whole month of October. They had horror movies in stock, both for rent and for sale. And on Halloween night, boy, they would pass out the candy. They would really get into the spirit of it. Yeah? But for costuming, and what we wanted to do is we weren't able to plan a costume. That It wasn't like I said, I'm going to be a zombie this year, or I'm going to be a swamp troll this year, or I'm going to, no. What you had to do is we had a few stores that did carry some Halloween stuff. Specifically, Kmart, Sears, and a few smaller like local stores. And you would go in there, and they didn't have whole costumes, pre-made, ready to go. They sold stuff by the pieces. So the first thing you wanted to do was find a mask. And that was going to be the basis of what the rest of your costume was going to do. Unless you made a mask. Now some people, they would plan for it and they would hand make stuff. I've seen people that had paper mache stuff. We lived in a great time. We lived in, prime human civilization. It was at its peak. Ask me, I think human civilization peaked somewhere before 1995, and it's been a downhill roller coaster since then. It's why nothing seems good to our generation, because it's less than what we had when we grew up. Movies, music, etc. Take a look around, see if it's not true. But regardless, trying not to go off the rails too much with my ranting. Regardless, that the mask for me was the most important piece of the costume, because if I found the right mask, then I could worry about finding the rest or making the rest to match the mask. Yeah? And that was it. You walked around in stores, you see what they had to offer. Probably the most coveted Halloween item that you could get, this would have been early 90s, was the Halloween one-piece robes. Yeah? I don't know if you guys remember those. But they were it was the robe, and it would be all tattered and have strings and, raggedness, and it would look like, I don't know, a grave shroud or something. It would be black or dark gray, had holes in it, and it was just creepy. But the thing that made it coveted was that it was made out of, you couldn't see through it unless somebody shone a light or something, but it was made of a very thin, like gossamer material, and it breathed. Yeah, I remember Halloween, the costumes would be so hot that it could be 30 degrees outside and you were in your costume just pouring buckets of sweat. Yeah, especially those old latex masks and stuff. But face paint, stuff you got on, whatever. So those Halloween one-piece robes, we called them Halloween robes, yeah? That they were made, that stuff that was made out of that thin material that breathed. Oh my goodness, that was something you got, and you kept it for the next Halloween and every Halloween afterward. You kept it nice as you could, yeah? Because that was the thing to have. And it matched every Halloween costume, by the way. Any mask that you put on, whatever, all you had to worry about was what you're going to do with your arms and your feet, basically, because it covered the rest. Yeah? But anyway, yeah, that's how we went about it. I would find my mask, plan the rest. And I think it's 1992 where I want to go here. The Halloween of 1992. It might have been the Halloween of 91, but I'm pretty sure it's Halloween of 92. Another thing that we would do would be we would figure out where each other's parents were going. That way we could see, maybe talk and wiggle our way into their trick-or-treating program. Yeah, because where we lived was very rural. We were up in the Appalachian part of Georgia. Not to the extreme north, but to the northwest side of Atlanta. Yeah? And you didn't necessarily want to trick-or-treat in that part of where we lived. Why? Because I'm telling you, by the time you walk the 2 or 3 houses, you've done 10 miles on foot. Yeah, you're done. You're laid out in the bushes, and you got a handful of candy. No, instead, we had to figure out who all was going to our main town that was in the center of our county, the bigger town, where the Kmart and Radio Shack and Sears and the university and restaurants, civilization, where all that was. That's where you wanted to go trick-or-treating. Why? Because the houses were like 100 feet apart. There were subdivisions, there were streets. It was a city. Yeah, that was where you went trick-or-treating. That's where you went with your pillowcase or your orange pumpkin. And in the car you kept a contractor bag, basically, a big garbage sack. And you would go house to house to house You would fill that pumpkin, dump it in your bag, get back out on the street, keep dumping it into the bag. You would go all night long until you couldn't find a house with a porch light on anywhere. Yeah? Then it was time to go home. And like I said, you'd come home, you'd dump your candy out on the floor, you would sort it of what was what. Chocolates over here, Tootsie Rolls over there, Tootsie Pops over there, packs of Nerds over here, candy corn over here, peanut butter kisses. Come on. Come on. Those big wax pumpkin things over there with the candy corn. Come on. Dracula teeth with the flavor on them. Yeah, I mean, we used to get spider rings, all kind of stuff. Come on. Halloween was amazing. You know, apples with razor blades in them, heroin needle Hershey bars. Come on, we put them to the side for when we grew up. Anyway. Yeah, that's just how we did it. And like I said, most everything was homemade back then. Guys, you would walk up to people's porches and a witch would be at the door. A woman dressed as a witch would be at the door and she'd be like, "Come in, kiddies, come on in for your candy. We've got lots of candy." You know, and you'd walk in, you knew it was a trap. Yeah? Because these people would empty out like the front end of their houses, build props like plywood coffins and stuff. You'd walk in and it'd be a little miniature haunted house you had to get through to get your candy. Yeah? And then inevitably somebody was jumping out of the bushes as you left and make you throw your candy bucket, backwards. And then they'd pick it up and give it out to the next kids. Yeah? Inevitably, if somebody didn't jump out of the bushes afterwards, Deathstalker V and all his little ghoulish friends, we would hide in bushes and wait for the little kids to come out. Then we'd bust out on them. Yeah? But anyway, with Jordan's stuff. Halloween of 92. We're just going to call 92. I'm pretty sure it was 92. We were so looking forward to it. We were planning. We found, my mom said we were going to go meet Aunt Lisa in Carrollton. And her and Aunt Lisa was going to drive us around and go trick-or-treating all night long for as long as we wanted to go. So I told Jordan, I asked him, I said, "What are y'all doing for Halloween?" And he says, "I don't know. My mom, she hasn't decided. We might go to Atlanta or whatever." But I said, "Hey, we're going to Carrollton. No, we're going to the major town that we're from. Yeah, Carrollton, if you needed to know. But not major town really, but for the area. But anyway, we're going to the town there, and yeah, we're going to Carrollton. You can come along if you want to." Yeah, I told Shane, everybody else. Yeah, inevitably it ended up that my mother was hauling around 4 or 5 of us. I know Jason, Shane. I think Billy was there. I don't remember if Billy was there or not. Jordan. But Jason and Shane were definitely there. Oh, Michael was there. Michael was there, part of our group. Anyway, we were getting ready for our Halloween costumes. Now, one thing that happened to me in school was several days out of the week, I would go hang out at Jordan's house because my mother would get off later. So his mom would come get us from school. We did the after school thing. His mom would grab us, and then I'd go hang out at his house, normally eat dinner with him. My mom would show up. Come on. Anyway, we've been planning for this thing. I found some kind of big green like troll head, and it had hair coming out. And I had found these like latex arms somewhere that had 3 monster fingers on them. And the Halloween robe. Put on a pair of old like dirty work boots. I'm in. I'm some kind of, I don't know, troll creature or something. I don't even know what it was supposed to be. I don't think I even tried to determine what it was supposed to be. It was gruesome. The mask was gruesome. Yeah, it was terrifying. Jordan, he had his Halloween robe, but we were going to do him up as a zombie. And so before Halloween, the day of Halloween, before we went out trick-or-treating and stuff, we were at school. I went over to Jordan's house. We were making up his Halloween costume. I think it was, this would have been Halloween night. I'm pretty sure. Memory sometimes can get off just a little bit, but I'm pretty sure it was the night of Halloween. Yeah, it had to be. It had to be. Anyway, he was going to paint himself with acrylic paint, by the way. And they bought him the acrylic paint, by the way. And he painted himself from head to toe, arms, face, neck, as gray, like a zombie. And his brothers were helping him do it. There was greens on him, reds. You know, his brothers were actually quite good at costume making, by the way. But they were making him up like an undead, like a zombie. Yeah? But I remember, and I don't know if his brothers did this on purpose or not. Yeah? But I remember they said, why don't you put one arm inside of your robe and we'll hang something out there and it looks like your arm's been cut off or something. And Jordan's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, this would be awesome. But like, how are we going to do this? Yeah? This was his brothers. They said, let's get some raw chicken out of the refrigerator and let's strip it out. And then, I don't know how they did it. They did it though. I don't know if they super glued it, they sewed it, I don't know. They came back with his one-piece robe and they had chicken flesh hanging out, fresh chicken flesh hanging out. And they had dyed it red and stuff or painted it red. I don't know how they did it, guys. I don't know. Yeah? All I know is me and Jordan were doing something and they came back with his robe. So anyway, he put it on and left his arm inside. And off of it looked real. It was like it looked real. It was off his shoulder and the sleeve hung down a little ways. It was short sleeve. These robes were short sleeves normally. And, the sleeve came down and it had the chicken weight, so it actually hung and dangled. And the chicken meat was hanging out the end of it, all dangly and gross looking. Yeah, it really was gross. Come on, it was chicken meat. It was awesome. They made Jordan look awesome. I'm hoping we've got a picture of this. I don't know if my mother will have one or not, but I'm pretty sure she would. Because Jordan got ready, and then my mom came by and picked us both up. We went to my place, back to our home, and I threw my costume on and everything. It was turning dark, and off we went to the town. Yeah? And we started trick-or-treating. Yeah, as gruesome as I looked, Jordan had it down. Jordan with that chicken flesh, they had put like spots all over his thing where it looked like blood and stuff was coming out of his costume. The paint was phenomenal. Yeah, Jordan looked outrageous, as a zombie. And he was doing the whole shuffling around like, because it was more than wearing the costumes. You had to have the voice. You had to have the walk. You had to be creepy. Yeah? I remember coming home from Halloween after talking in monster voices all night and my voice was gone. It's like, yeah, we went hard, guys. Anyway, this whole story starts that, Shane's with us. I know Michael's with us and I know Jason's with us. And I don't even remember what those guys were dressed up as. Yeah, memories are funny. I just remember that the whole crew met up at my house. We had Jordan already there. The whole crew met up and we all went to town. Anyway, where this story takes place is, I think we're probably about 30 minutes into trick-or-treating. Yeah? I'm sorry, guys. We're about 30 minutes into trick-or-treating. It's dark outside. We're going house to house. The people are loving our costumes and our acts and stuff. We're dumping candy out. We're into our bags. We're doing it. Having to help Jordan get in and out of the car sometimes because he's only got one arm in the candy bucket. He wasn't letting go of that candy bucket. Nobody let go of their candy bucket. Yeah, that was the worst thing to do. It was going to disappear on you. But anyway, I remember we went to this house. The porch light was on. There was a chain link fence yard. It was in the city. Yeah? So me, Jordan, my mom, Shane, Jason, Michael, we go up to this house for trick-or-treating. And what happens before we make it to the house? A big black dog comes running through the yard. It runs up to me. It's sniffing around. Yeah, it's wagging its tail. It looks friendly. It's not even barking. It goes straight to Jordan And guys, you can't make this stuff up. It goes up to Jordan, and I think it clicked right before the dog got to him that this wasn't a good idea with the chicken flesh hanging off, right? So I could see him start backing away from the dog, but the dog keeps coming, and it runs up to him, and it literally just latches onto the chicken meat hanging from his arm. Jordan lets out a scream. Jordan lets out a scream, and this dog literally just yanks the whole robe off of him. And takes off. Yeah. I distinctly remember the dog taking the robe off, and Jordan's frozen time for just a second. And it's dark outside, and Jordan was of darker skin. And all I can remember is I saw Jordan's white socks and his whitey-tighty underwear because he had nothing on under the robe. And then I see the white socks and whitey-tighty underwear go after the dog. Yeah, he's chasing this dog. Yeah, eventually we got his robe back. It was destroyed. Yeah, Jordan had to sit in the back of the car, and we felt sorry for him, so we divided out the loot we brought in. But yeah, Jordan never lived that down a day in his life. Oh my goodness, not with us around. It would come up at all kind of random times, and he'd get mad about it. That was one thing about Jordan is he could laugh and have a good time, but boy, he could get mad too. Jordan could get mad. Yeah, we laughed a little too much about what happened trick-or-treating that night. He would get mad. Talk about those whitey-tighties, he would get mad. Not like we all weren't wearing whitey-tighties too. We were kids, you know. Sip of root beer for Jordan. Goodness gracious, what good times, yeah? And Steve asking me to tell that story. I mean, it was an unbelievable thing, yeah? I feel like his brothers, that was a prank. Like they knew that somewhere there was going to be a dog or something to grab that meat. Yeah, I mean, just thinking back on it, how could we have not even thought of that? You know, as kids even. Yeah, but that dog grabbing that chicken meat, and it looked so good. The costume looked so good. They had done the chicken meat, they had dipped it in red dye or something. It looked like like a tore off arm. It was all, ugh. Yeah, but that dog, it grabbed it and it took off. Jordan, all I could see was a pair of white crew socks and some whitey-tighties running through the yard screaming and chasing a dog. Yeah, I think it made it worse that whole thing happened and like everybody in the neighborhood came running and watched. Just to add on to the humility of it. At least he was wearing face paint and stuff so nobody could recognize him, yeah? Unless they recognized the zombie wearing big gold glasses. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the memories we have in life. Halloween, you just won't get any of that kind of action anymore. Yeah, we've had so many good Halloweens. And just thinking about Jordan and everything, you know, one of my things that I've recently, here in the last year or so, well, really starting with the show, but I've really ramped it up. The members know, you know, our Rogues Gallery, they know because they've been watching the live streaming here every night for a while. Yeah, I've been wanting to get into gaming on 80s, 70s, you know, 8-bit computers and such. And one of the first things I had to grab that I didn't already have for years was a Commodore 128. Because boy, oh boy, me and Jordan, we played the heck out of this machine. We played the heck out of it. It was the 8-bit gaming monster for us. We weren't studying nobody with a Nintendo. This was the deal right here. Yeah? Actually, the Commodore 64, for 1982 hardware, fared well all the way up until the mid-90s. Yeah? At least in some locations or regions. Anyway, I got to thinking about that. I grabbed the Commodore 128 this year. We'll do a whole bunch of episodes on these computers, including this. We'll do a thing gaming with Jordan, just like we're gonna do a gaming with Aunt Lisa on the Atari stuff or whatever. But it said, why not, since we're talking about Jordan, fire this thing up and play just a really good Halloween game. And guys, I'm not sure if there's a machine with more Halloween style games, creepy monster games, whatever, or Halloween themed stuff, than the Commodore 64 128. There's the Cauldron games, 1 and 2. There's Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, just tons of them, It would take me forever just to start listing off the stuff. But I said, let's go to one that we really enjoyed then, that we couldn't get enough of. And that's Capcom's Ghosts and Goblins. Yeah? So let me get this over here. Let's fire it up, and I'll see you when we got the game on.
Alright, guys. I do have one cheat applied, and that's unlimited lives. That's the only one. Because this game is a nightmare to get through. On the arcade, NES, Commodore 64, whatever. But I do have some experience with the Commodore 64. Here we go. That I may not actually need those unlimited lives, but that last level is a killer for me. Yeah, but what a perfect just game for Halloween. Me and Jordan played the heck out of this. Alright, he's down. We gotta get past this red guy coming up. Not this bird, but... me and Jordan played this religiously. We actually did get good enough where we could beat this without any cheats, but hey, that's been, 30 years ago. Alright, I always hated this part of the stage coming up with those ghosts that throw the spear things or whatever. I love the music. I just love the music on the Commodore 64. Better than the arcade. Alright. Yeah, I got a little secret spot here. You crouch down right in that corner. And this in-level boss, he can't hit you out. Darn it. But those stupid ghosts I hate with the spears, they got me. Okay, second level. Let's be careful right here. They always pop out and get me. Get him down. One thing about this game that a lot of people don't like is it's one button, so you have to push up to jump. While no, it's not perfect, I'm so used to it that I find myself doing it on other consoles as well because that was just what we got used to with the Atari and stuff like this. Oh boy, these guys coming out of this house drive me nuts. He's going low. Alright. Let's go get him. These guys take a massive amount of hits to get. Oh boy. Okay, good. He's going low again. Oh boy, here we go. Geez, hit him. No. Alright, we lost our armor. I didn't time the shot to the bird correctly. Let's get to the next checkpoint at least, so that way if we die we don't lose too much progress. Almost there. I like this game had the music and sound effects. That was a thing back in the day on the Commodore 64 and even on the Amiga. Sometimes you had to make a choice between the two. Oh boy, oh boy. Sorry. We made it to the checkpoint. Let me get my armor. Yeah, just the vibes of this game. This is a classic. This is one of my favorite games. Even though I'm terrible at it. The Commodore 64 is actually the easiest port of this for me. Let me see if I can find my spot here. Oh no, oh no. Okay, just go, 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 go. Got him. Got him. Yeah, the Commodore 64 is probably my favorite. I have an arcade port of this, obviously. I played it on the NES. I played it in the arcade. Yeah, when it comes to what version I would like to play most, it's the Commodore 64 version. Why? Because it at least feels manageable to me. It's difficult as all get out, but this is manageable. And I still say it has the best music of any Ghosts'n Goblins port. I like it better than the arcade music. It only has one track, but that's okay. How many tracks did the arcade have? I can't remember. Yeah? It seems like it had more than one track, but I can't remember. I didn't get past the first level in the arcade enough. These guys, you just gotta wait for them to go down and jump over them. Don't touch the flames. Maybe those little demon guys that fly up won't be too rough on us, because they can get hectic in this stage. And over the fire bridge we go. Okay. Yeah. Take him down. There's I got my sweet spot. One cool thing is a homebrew effort. They've redone this game, and it's more like the arcade game, and it has different musics and such. It's amazing. But I said we gotta go classic. We gotta go back to the game that we loved and cherished so much then. Oh boy. This is a stage where we're probably gonna die a whole bunch. Oh. Let's see. Where's the Two-Face thing? There it is. Oh boy. I don't know what that's supposed to be, like a tree trunk or something of an old tree. Look at armor, let's grab it. Oh man, I forgot about this one. Let's see if we can get, okay, got the armor. Oh boy. This part's pretty manageable for me. It's what's coming up next. You can either go up or straight. And if I go up, I know I'm dying a whole bunch, so I'm going straight and just try to power through. My strategy was always to, I'll show you. I'm not gonna be able to do it this time. I just want to get this checkpoint right here. And here's where we'll get killed. Okay, I need the armor on. If we can make it to the red demon, darn it. If we can make it to the red demon with our armor on, we can let him hit us and jump through him while we're flashing, and then go up to the next checkpoint. So let's see if we can manage this. Die. Oh boy. Oh, come on. Alright, whatever. Just gotta die. Yeah, see, this is where those unlimited lives come in handy. We'd be here having to restart the whole game over and over. Oh, come on, now jump through him, go, dodge that. Alright, we're almost there. If we can get up there, we're to the checkpoint. Duck, jump, and down. Here's where we're probably gonna die. Let me just get my armor reset. Oh, we actually got him. Okay, yeah, we need our armor for this guy for sure. This is the last boss. Okay, careful timing here. If we have our armor, we'll time these shots. Oh boy, out of time. Jeez. Okay, gotta focus. Down, time the shots. Now. Alright, here we go, to the boss. Oh geez, can we get him? Got him! Got him! We got him! We saved the princess! Yeah, we don't have to run through the game twice like the arcade or the NES version. Yeah, good times.
Alright guys, like all good things, this must come to a close. Yeah, but playing Ghosts'n Goblins on the Commodore 64, again, it's just like Halloween. It's those great memories, great games. This was the first version of Ghosts'n Goblins that I ever played at home. You know, and it's just pure nostalgia for me. Yeah, it's not arcade perfect. Yeah, it only has 4 levels. But like I said while we were playing, it's definitely my favorite port of the game because it's just so playable. It's just so fun. Yeah, I don't know. Regardless, I hope all of you out there have a very happy and special Halloween. And I'll be seeing you here next time on the Random Encounter Show.
And this has been but one tale from the days of high adventure. You can join Deathstalker V on his quest by hitting that subscription button and joining his Random Encounter army on the channel's About page. you will find our Facebook page and Facebook group where you can get more directly involved with the fun. And make sure you use our affiliate links to support our show.